Hi, my name is Eric Smith. I'm president of Trustee Empowerment and Protection, Inc., and have served as an ERISA attorney creating and advising 401k plans. I'm also a licensed institutional investment advisor advising them as well as being a trustee of a 401k plan myself. So, from that uniquely broad perspective, I've observed some things that your advisors may not be able to tell you and that you really need to know. Let's start with this. Whether you are aware of this or not, within the last several years, there have been over 200 401k plan focused class action lawsuits filed against some of the biggest companies in the country and their plans' trustees individually. Many have resulted in settlements and jury verdicts in the tens of millions of dollars. Has anyone told you about any of this? Unfortunately, all of this is a fact. It's also a fact that in virtually every one of these cases, the plan likely had the services of a big name national investment advisory firm, as well as a partner of a major regional, if not national, law firm attending each meeting in which investment related decisions were made. Well, with that level of professional help, what do you think the chances are that any of those trustees ever believed it possible that they would be personally sued and publicly accused of being bad fiduciaries, of having violated their fiduciary duty to their plan's participants? I very much doubt that any of them did. In fact, if asked, I'd venture to say that all likely believed that they were doing everything right. So what went wrong? How could they be sued, much less be held liable or settled for literally millions, if not tens of millions of dollars? What was their mistake? What did they and their advisors miss? Or more importantly, is there anything they could have done to prevent this from happening? Well, these cases generally took two forms. First, excess cost cases, in other words, paying too much for services and investment choices that could have been secured less expensively, and claims arising from chronic underperformance of the investment choices within the plan. Well, what went wrong with the investment choice related cases, which were often those with the largest damage claims, is that plan trustees entirely and largely blindly relied solely on the advice of their plan's investment advisor in the selection and monitoring of their plan's investment choices. Surprised? Well, if you're like most trustees, you likely are. After all, how else would you expect to pick plan investment choices? You may now be feeling a bit uneasy about how you and your fellow trustees are making your investment choice selection decisions for your own plan. You should be, especially if you too are relying entirely on the advice of your single investment advisor. Here's how the district court judge in Tibble versus Edison, a quite famous case you've likely never heard of, ruled when trustees of the large California Edison plan attempted to use the "we relied on the advice of our plan's investment advisor" as a defense to the charge of having breached their fiduciary duty in selecting its plan's investment choices. Here's the quote. While securing independent advice from the plan's investment advisor is some evidence of a thorough investigation, it's not a complete defense to a charge of imprudence. At the very least, the plan fiduciaries, in other words, you, must make certain that reliance on the expert's advice is reasonably justified. Well, it's almost always shocking to plan trustees to learn that their reliance on the advice of their plan's single investment consultant is not a complete defense to a charge of fiduciary imprudence in their investment-related decision-making. Why? Well, that's because that's how 99+% of plans are making their investment choice decisions. Isn't that how you're doing it? But how can you make certain that your reliance on your advisor's advice is reasonably justified if you just have one advisor? What are you doing to ensure that following your advisor's recommendations is reasonably justified? If you realize that you have no good answer to that question, you're not alone. Today, virtually no trustee can adequately answer it to avoid potential liability. Almost all trustees don't know that this is something they need to be concerned about, much less be prepared to effectively answer, much less answer under oath. For a complete defense, it appears that plan trustees now likely need a protective review of the investment choices within their plans. In other words, a protective second opinion, one that they can hire an independent investment advisor to perform for them, or a review that they can themselves internally perform. The patented decision assistance technology powered tool that we're introducing makes it possible for plan trustees and sponsors to comparatively evaluate their plan's investment choices, not just against a benchmark index, but against all other available choices in each asset class. Independent investment professionals, licensed and trained to do so, can also use this technology to provide such protective reviews. Why is this important? It's because chronic underperformance claims regarding the investment choices within plans are now the largest class action claims being brought against plan sponsors and trustees. By helping you identify and remove chronically underperforming investment choices, a protective review can reduce the chances that you and your plan will be subject to future chronic underperformance claims. Whether your plan performs this protective review internally or with the help of an outside advisor, either way, we're not suggesting that you fire your plan's primary investment advisor. On the contrary, they can and would remain involved. However, what will be different is this. For the first time, you and your fellow trustees will be much better informed and empowered to better exercise your ERISA-mandated fiduciary oversight over the activities and recommendations of your plan's advisor. Although required by ERISA, a practical way to exercise this oversight is a power that trustees have never had, and effectively performing such oversight is still virtually impossible without this new technology. While we can't quote the price that an independent investment advisor would charge to perform this protective review for you and your plan, the cost to obtain direct access to this technology and have someone trained and supported to internally perform it for you and your plan is quite expensive. It's only $1,250 per quarter. Moreover, although this can be paid for by the company, it need not be. It's a legitimate expense of and can be paid for by the plan itself. And here's perhaps the best part. By helping you improve the investment choices within your plan, the investment performance of all plan participants, including your own, could be improved, possibly substantially. And in this way, the service would likely more than pay for itself. If you have any questions about any of this, please take a moment and click on our FAQ tab, and you'll find a wealth of questions answered there. After that, simply sign up and we'll equip and train you to perform the protective review internally, or we'll connect you with an investment advisor who can perform the review for you. Either way, be prepared to be shocked by the differences in performance you'll likely see between the choices offered within your plan and other choices that you may have been able to select. Improving your plan's investment choices is simply a win for everyone. We look forward to helping you do that and to welcoming you into the brave new world of true trustee empowerment and protection.